All right. So on the show today, we're going to talk about how to make offers on wholesale properties. This is something where I feel like if you're brand new and you're especially in the New York City suburbs, once you know how to do this, it's like Dorothy clicking her heels in the Wizard of Oz. The whole world just turns into color. So this is a skill that you must master, or else every time you do marketing, you're not going to really know what to do, because you get all these leads and you don't know what they're worth, you don't know what to pay, and then you don't know how to make money. So Michael, you are the master of valuing properties. You actually, didn't you just buy the MLS recently? You bought the entire MLS. Just kidding. I don't know what I'm talking about.
They'll never sell. There's like 500 people.
I know, it's like a mafia. It's like a
Most
mafia.
of them doing nothing all day and raising our annual fees. I'm like, let's just fire. I went in there one time, I'm thinking, why don't you just fire those 30 people who do nothing all day and then lower our annual fees?
Wouldn't that be logical, right? Wouldn't that be amazing? How do you do this, Michael? This is where so many people just get smoked. Like, let's just do this. How do you do it in your area, right? What do you do when you get a lead? Obviously, you don't speak to the seller. You get involved later on. But how do you decide this property in Floral Park needs to be bought here in order to make money? Because that's a lot of wholesalers just have no idea how to do this. And they send bad deals out, right?
Right. So first of all, I completely understand why people who are starting are terrified of this, right? Because they're obviously afraid that they're going to make an offer that's going to be too high, going to get accepted, and then they're going to get screwed and lose money. And really, it's very specific to New York that you're taking on that risk, because in 49 states, really, you can easily get a contingency in there, called an inspection contingency,
partner's approval.
Right. Where if you find out that, hey, I can't find anybody to buy this if I want to wholesale it, or if I realize that I'm paying too much, I can get out of the contract. In New York, I would say almost every contract, not every contract I've ever gone into, I don't have any outs. I don't have any contingencies. I have to either assign the contract or I have to close. So I completely understand why people are concerned about it. So to make an offer really is a few steps, right? The first step is to come up with a value based on comparable sales. And there's a few steps for that, because most of the time when you want to wholesale it, you need to come up with an ARV, an after repair value. So what is this really worth to someone who's going to fix it up and do everything to it? There's also a possibility of, well, let's just stick with that for wholesaling, because if we there are other options to disposition of property. You may want to close on it and then wholesale it, which means do very little work.
Hard to do that now in this market, by the way.
Or you may want to actually close on it and do all the work to it.
Yeah.
So everything is specific. So the first thing you have, so when I'm looking at a property, because I'm not afraid to close on it, and I'm sure people when they're starting they don't want to close on it, but when I look at a property, the first thing I look at is what's the ARV, right? So what are similar homes that are completely all redone going for? That's the after repair value. I also look at, well, what are cruddy homes, assuming the house is financially mortgageable as is, right? So I'm talking about not the worst case scenario. You go buy these bank-owned properties where they're already they're vacant and they've already been what do they call it? Where they
winterized.
Right. Those things where you're not even sure if the electricity is going to work when you turn it on.
Yeah.
Plumbing's going to work. Those are not properties that you can wholesale. But if someone's living in there, 9 times out of 10, you probably can wholesale it, which means buy it, maybe clean it out, maybe do minimal work to it and then sell it. So I look at what a junky homes, old, like original homes going for. And I'm also look for what really the crappiest homes have been sold for to investors for. So I'm going to look for short sales, which you mostly go to an investor. I'm going to look for vacant REOs, so real estate owned, bank owned properties. What do they sell for investors? Sometimes you can find those, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
If I find an ARV property, so a property that's completely redone, I'm going to try and look back also to see what the investor paid for it. Now that can be a while back. That might be a year ago. That might be 6 months ago. But I'm going to look and get an idea of what investors. So I'm looking really for 3 things to come up with this value. That's the first part, and we can probably talk for 7 hours just on that. But in addition to that, you have to have some kind of formula for what you're going to do with those numbers and convert that into a number that you're going to offer the seller. So assuming let's just go with wholesaling, right? So, and you come up with an ARV, right? The property next door is same property, never going to be the same property, and it just sold for $600,000, for example, right? I just put a property out. I'm looking at the request on the other screen. There was a property on the block that got redone, maybe a little bigger. It just sold like 4 months ago for like 760,000. I think my property is a little smaller. Um, I'm being very conservative now because the market shifted since that property sold. And we can talk about all sorts of those things. So I'm thinking my property is maybe 600 to 655. So once you have that value, right, you get comparable sales for value. And we're talking about 1 to 4 family properties here because 5 or more units is a completely different system. But you need a formula. So the general formula that I work on in my area, and this is just a formula, it's just a guideline, is that I want to buy it around 70% of the ARV of the repair value minus what I think the repairs are going to cost, and I want to wholesale it at 80% of that value minus what the repairs cost. Now, people in other markets may listen to that and go, "That's crazy," because I heard that you always have to sell it to a rehabber for 70% of the ARV minus repairs cost. So the way it works is in my area and a lot of your areas, they're very high priced properties, like $500,000, $600,000, $800,000. So let's think about how that works. Now, in most of the country, things go for $150,000, $200,000. So the space you're leaving, right? So the 30% that you're leaving on a 70% formula, or the 20% you're leaving on an 80% formula, has to cover the cash buyer's profit and all of his soft costs. So if you're buying in a small area in Lubbock, Texas, and things go for $200,000, the profit and all the other costs for a lot of these cash buyers, they want 30% room. Maybe they'll go 25%, and in certain places they'll go even less. Super hot areas they might go 15%, but that works. But in our area where the prices are, the ARVs are so much higher, 20% is usually a lot. It could be over $100,000. It could be $150,000. It could be $200,000. So in that case, I found a lot of the cash buyers that I sell to will take 80% minus repairs. Now, do you want to say something? Because I literally can talk about this straight. I can.
No, keep going. You're making, this is exactly what I would be saying. Similar.
So it's important to understand that doesn't mean that every cash buyer is going to come in for your value. Very often, I would say almost every time I put a property out, I am going to get offers that are significantly less than what I want. And there are plenty of cash buyers that will go at 70%, that will only buy at 70%, and they're going to come in around the price that I'm buying for very often. But you only need one buyer who figures out things, and they don't have to be using the same formula either. And this is really my important point. And I know you've sort of switched on this lately. I used to give out what I thought the ARV was and what the repair estimate was.
Yeah.
And what I found is giving out those numbers in general didn't help me and could hurt me, because I very often assumed that the repairs were X, and very often other buyers assumed that they were more, and some buyers assumed they were less.
They highball the repairs. They highball you. And it's bullshit because they know, like, I'm like, no, it's not, you asshole.
I had a property, I remember, in Locust Valley where I thought I could make that house perfect for $60,000. Guy comes in, he goes, "It's going to cost me $160,000." And I'm like, "Okay, he might.
Blind?
You know what? He might have been his first deal. He might have been an idiot. He might have used a bad contractor. Maybe he's going to make it to Taj Mahal in that area. I don't know." But when I gave that, and then on that same property, another guy said, "What do you think the ARV is?" And at that point, I think I said 700. He goes, "What? I had it at like 850. So what did I just do? I really
shot yourself in the ass."
Right? Because now he's really thinking, this thing's not good, right? The numbers are all wrong. So so what scares people, and I completely understand, and I live through this fear, is that, hey, I'm gonna I'm gonna come too low on the actual repairs, and I'm gonna go too high in the ARV, and I'm gonna buy this property, I'm gonna get into contract, and everybody's gonna be wrong. The beauty of the reality that we both discovered is that everybody's ARV is going to be different than yours, and everybody's comparison is going to be different than yours. There's no way everybody's going to be on the money with you. And you may assume the is, let's take the example, it's $650 for the house. There are people that might say the ARV is $750 for the house. And those same people may put their repair estimates lower than yours, and they'll pay more. So the fear is that you're always going to get this wrong. The truth is, if you have a decent enough buyers list, and I know you and I both do, there's somebody out there. What we've learned from putting offers in is that if we buy it the way we want to, we're probably going to find a buyer to take it. And the worst case scenario, if we can't find a buyer, is we'll close on it because we know and we
Good deal.
bought it cheaper. We could make money on
Yeah, no, that's huge. And this is where I was telling somebody yesterday and they weren't like getting it. I was like, listen, I'm going to tell you how to do this right now, but you need to just do this. Like I can explain this to you and I can show you. I've done probably 5,000 deal analyzation sessions. So for me, it's like, it's not really fair for me to even explain it to you because it's not, it's going to be like me speaking what is it?
it.
Tagalog.
Solid, right?
Yeah. And
It's
like,
not
you're
an
not going to,
exact,
yeah.
not an exact science. That's the
Yeah, it's not. I can't just give you a framework because it's like I can go look at a property anywhere in like lower Hudson Valley and even in your area and be like, oh, this is the number. This is where I need to buy it at. Because we've done so many deals, we know the cost basis. I know the construction. I know. So I can just be like, oh, at this number, we're going to make money. We're going to make 45 grand. But like for someone brand new who's never done that, who doesn't have that data, it's like really difficult. And that's why we always encourage, just call us and we'll do deals together for heaven's sake. It's like, it's a very simple formula. You're going to learn more working with me and Michael than you will trying to do this on your own. I guarantee it.
people don't understand this and no one talks about it. I think it's the number one service that you and I provide when we
It
do
is
with people.
more than any information we sell. Yeah.
They don't know what a deal is, and you and I can look at it, and in 5 minutes I can tell you if we can buy it at this,
Yeah.
it's a deal, and if
That's
we
all
buy
I
much
do.
more, it may not be a deal. And for a lot of people, that is tremendously comforting, right?
And I throw the deposit down, and Uncle Helbeck puts the deposit down. You can't go wrong with that. You can't go. It's a no lose deal. So what I was trying to say was, if you really were to do this and you're brand new and you don't want to work with Mike and I, which is fine. Obviously, we're no pressure salesmen. You have to look at the property, and I look at it two ways, like you said. What is this ARV? And the thing with ARV we talked about it on our Novation show is like at the end of the day, there's only like maybe 10% of all the inventory is ARV inventory because it's from a flipper.
I think less.
Yeah, right. Maybe 5%. So really at the end of the day, yeah, you can come up with your ARV, which all the gurus teach, which by the way, that's kind of horseshit because it's like maybe 1 out of 15 is nice. The real number I like to look at is what are similar houses to this house, capes, bi-levels, colonials, whatever, ranchers. What are they selling collectively? Like generally, like I was looking at a deal in Connecticut yesterday that we're going to be buying in Fairfield County. So it's just like Long Island. It's a very expensive area. And, I couldn't really pinpoint the value of this thing. And it was like kind of bothering me. So I was like up late last night, like on the MLS, and I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, what the hell? And I found a freaking model match comp. It was not ARV, but it was same house, same style. I'm like, oh, this is a 520 ARV all day long, as you would say, easy peasy Japanesey. And I'm like, I got it now. And then I texted Brett at like 2 a.m. Eastern. I'm like, hey, all right, we got it. We're good. Let's buy this thing. So you have to look at what are those similar houses selling for, and how does that compare to your property? Like if your property doesn't need a lot of work, like it just needs like maybe you can paint the bath. Like most houses, well, I wouldn't say most houses. A lot of houses don't need that much work to look pretty nice. Like if unless you're really, maybe 1 out of 10 you're buying is a complete dog. But hey, it's an original house. You maybe got some ugly wallpaper in there. Maybe the deck's chipping a little bit. But like a lot of houses I look at, like I'm looking more of the as is value. And then when I see the as is value, I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be worth as is 400. If I did like a nice rehab, I could probably sell it for 430 maybe. But it's probably going to be like, because it's really the property's not that beat up. So the rehab isn't going to add that much value to it. And then from there, I'll say, okay, so if a rehabber pays, and I look at it like if I'm wholesaling the house, if a rehabber bought it off me for 300 and they put 30 into it and it sells for 430, they're going to make out like a band. They're going to make 60 grand on that. Someone will buy that. And then I'm like, okay, let's go offer them 272. You know what I mean? So that I just kind of figure like, what would a buyer probably pay for this that's realistic? And then that tells me what I'm thinking this is going to trade for. And then from there, I'm like, okay, we want to make 30, 40, 50 grand on an assignment or whatever. We offer, lower. And then listen, if they say no to the wholesale offer, I can just buy it myself for 300 or 315. And it's like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't care. So like it's hard. It's easy for me to explain now. But like when I was starting, I was like, oh my God, like I was so scared. I mean, I remember I was doing a lot of stuff in like Westchester and it was so expensive. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. This is like 600 grand for a house. It's crazy. Oh,
right. Another thing that I think is, and scares people that are coming from other states, in a lot of states, it's really based on a cost per square foot, right? Because in most states, In most
In
states,
Florida, it's like the same shit. Yeah.
every single listing gets a number of square feet on it, right? Square footage, at least what the county thinks it is.
Yeah.
So people
Yep.
go and they go, well, I'll pay $400 square foot, and this can't use this comp because it's 200 square feet less and all that stuff. In New York, square footage is not required on the listing, so I never did that. I've had people call me. I had people call me once on a deal and go, "Well, what's the square footage?" I go, "I don't know." They go, "Well, then how do you figure it out?" I go, "Let me take a wild stab at it. You came from another state, right?" She goes, "Yeah." "How'd you know?" I go, "Because that's how it works in a lot of places. Doesn't work that way here." So I did what you just described. I didn't get into it in more detail, but I should. So I look at what similar style homes, right? There's only
Hmm.
like 6 styles in the whole Long Island, right? There's ranch, there's a
Yeah.
high ranch,
Mostly capes.
there's a cape, there's a colonial, and then there's like a couple of weird things in between. But that covers
Contemporary. There's a lot of contemporaries, like out probably in Suffolk.
temporary.
You know.
They
Yeah.
usually make something new.
I hate those houses,
But
by the way. I hate contemporaries. No
very
comps.
hard to figure.
Yeah.
So I try to find the same style, and then I try to find the same bedrooms and bathrooms. That's what I try to do. And you can't always find the same bedrooms and bathrooms, but similar. Half a bathroom isn't going to make that much of a difference. Somebody has a one bathroom, I'm not going to comp to the two or more bathrooms. I'm not going to comp something, like a 2 bedroom to a 3 bedroom. I think it's different. But once you get up to 4 or 5 bedrooms, it's probably similar. So that's what I look at. And we're looking for prices looking for properties in a very close proximity, right? So really close. I try not to cross busy streets if I don't have to. And then we're looking for same style, similar bedrooms and bathrooms. And what are they selling for? And then I look at the condition to get an idea. So if it's junky, I'm going to, figure this for, it's less than what I need to do. And if it's in perfect condition, then it's a really good ARB comp. That's what I look at.
Yeah.
And
No,
again,
that's
it's not very hard to teach that. And I've done
It's hard.
multiple videos
Yeah, it's hard.
sharing my screen doing it. It is not an exact science. It's not. And sometimes I'll go back. Like, I don't want to do properties that I sort of encounter right now. So I'll go back and I'll do properties that I already wholesaled or I
yeah.
already. And we go back all this time, and I'm like, I came up with a number, but like all these comps that are showing up now, those weren't there. So I have to go back in time. So
Yeah, it's funny.
You know what I realized too, like, and this is not as relevant in Long Island, but like sometimes we'll get leads and they're somewhat remote because obviously like once you get off the island, like, you can go up the entire state, right? And it's just woods everywhere. So we'll get rural leads. And, it can be difficult to run comps because it's not like you're really like, you're kind of up the creek. Like, okay, like this house is a ranch and it's on 2 acres, but like, you're not like in a subdivision where there's, it's like, so I've noticed that if you're doing business in like the Hudson Valley and you're not directly in a neighborhood and you're more in a rural area, that is even more difficult because then you got to obviously expand your radius. You can't go half mile out. You got to go 2 miles out. You got to look at school districts. Here's another thing too. And this is really relevant to when we're recording this, which is, October of 2022. Obviously, unless you're living under a rock, the market has shifted. And obviously we've known this was going to happen. We just didn't know when it would happen. And obviously the interest rates were what caused it to shift mostly. So I have noticed, and I was talking to somebody yesterday on the phone about this. The biggest thing I think that will actually cause the market to like change is not the prices just getting slaughtered. I don't see that happening that bad in our area. Like I see the prices maybe staggering, maybe going down a little bit. The biggest thing that's going to really happen, in my opinion, is that the days on market is going to become normal. And when you put a flip on the market, if you don't have an offer in 3 weeks, that's going to be like a normal thing. Like the date. And my buddy who, was texting me last night and he's like, dude, I don't have any offers. Like I only have 4 showings. I normally have 20. I'm like, yo, this is just a normal market. Like, this is how it was in 2017, 2018. That's exactly how it was. And you're not going to see like this, like, oh, there's 30 showings on Saturday, there's 20 showings on Sunday, and then Sunday night we're going to have 55 offers, and the days on market will be 30 days, right? You're going to see days on market 60, 90. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen.
I just listed something, and my dispo manager was telling me it's just a listing, right? And I thought it was like a 600 house in current condition, and we got a 585 offer, and my dispo manager was like, I can't believe she won't take it. It's our only offer. I'm like,
who, the seller didn't take it?
We had a 615 offer like over the weekend. So you got to wait, right? Sometimes you got to wait. It's not easy to wait, especially when you're spoiled. Where, as you said, you get 50 offers. You can get 15 offers the first day you have it out there. things are different and things are getting back to normal, and prices are probably going down a little, maybe for a while. They might be going down a little for a while. We don't know, but that was one of the things that you really have to. Patience is not easy. When you have a lot of money in a deal, you put the deal and there's all your cash sitting in there, and you put it out there, and three people come and tell you that it's overpriced or that it's shitty work.
Tough.
It's a punch in the gut. Right? It's actually a punch really even lower into the ball. I remember that feeling like, oh, did I screw this up? What did I do wrong? I knew I should have done that extra bedroom. I knew you start second guessing yourself. But you need, I'd say, I remember what did I have? I think you need a good 4 to 6 weeks of having something on market, so you really know what's going on. And it's really easy to panic, and it's really easy to start dropping prices. But I think you check the market, look what's out there, and you got to give it more time. And when wholesaling, also I would say you got to find that one buyer who wants it, right? And you got to build. One thing I've struggled with, it's not really on topic, but it's ancillary, is that the question of what is it better to have a tiny buyers list of say 30 guys who are great and you know them and everybody does what they say they're going to do and they'll all buy, or is it better to have like 2,000 or 3,000 buyers list where most of them are junk, but you have more people? And I think I'm leaning towards a bigger list because every buyer has their own experiences and their own wants. Like they want a property in this area, and that is what they want. You could send them 100 properties in another area, and they will basically tell you to drop dead. But when you get a property in their city, they are going to be more aggressive than any other person. So I think it's an interesting conundrum, right? Because you also have to manage the buyers, right? I just sent the property out. I got 8 people sending me emails. Some of these are the stupidest emails ever. They're asking me questions that they just read the email that I sent you the first time.
They're so lazy, these buyers. They're such lazy jerkies, as you would say.
Right. So you get that. So you almost say, well, you want to deal with all these people every time. But the truth is, I think having a bigger buyers list is advantageous because every buyer's got their own thing. And also everybody's got different timing, right? They may have just sold a flip for a lot of money and they are looking for something. They are itching. Somebody told me today, like, I am finishing construction in a week and a half. The guy gave me a deal on the work because I told him I'd keep him busy. I have nothing for him in a week and a half. Is there any way we can work something out on the deal? Like, okay, that's a specific thing to him. Like, nobody else can have that issue, right? He may pay more for something because of that. So it's an interesting thought. But when you put it out there, you have a decent list and you priced it right.
It'll sell. It will sell. It will sell. If you have a big enough buyers list, like you said, that's the thing I've realized. And I still sit in the dispo seat in my business, and at least for wholesales. But you just need one buyer. And I just wholesaled a house in Houston, actually. Like, we found a buyer and we signed a contract, so it's in title or contract with escrow, whatever you want to call it. It's in limbo.
How'd you find the buyer?
I went. This is where people don't like. This is such a common sense thing. And I'm not saying I'm a genius. I'm just saying, like, this is very common sense.
I will say you're a genius.
I appreciate the comment, and it means a lot coming from you, but I think there's definitely some smarter people out there than me. I mean, for God's sakes, I got an orange t-shirt on, right? I'm an idiot. Anyway, so I went on Facebook and I typed in Houston off-market real estate investing group, enter. And I find a group with 4,000 people. I join the group. I get approved. I type the ad. I didn't type the ad. I typed in, I have a townhouse in this zip code. If you want to buy it, let me know. Email me, DM. Dude, 15 people, lockbox, easy peasy, Japanesey, as you would say, for the second time, and got it sold at my price, right? And I have another guy back up more than that. But this other guy, like, I don't know him from Adam. The other guy's like a legitimate company. But like, you need to have a deal, right? It's traffic and conversion. Traffic is the Facebook post. Traffic is the email. Go on to Long Island off market. Like, there's a Facebook, we're in the same Facebook, off market, Long Island prop, whatever. Just type it in. Like, it's not like people will see that, right? And if you actually have a deal that makes sense, somebody will buy it. It might just not take a day. It might take like, we've been selling some of our wholesale stuff. And listen, it takes like 4 or 5 days to sell a wholesale deal now. And that's the truth, right? I had one, we had to have 3 showings. Another one, we had to keep dropping the price. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. But people are buying them. People are buying these properties. Maybe 1 out of 10, we can't find a buyer, but like, it's still not a problem.
You're buying it right. You're gonna find, that's the thing that people also, when they start, they're terrified of, right? What if I get this deal and I did everything right and no one wants to buy it? And the truth is, it just doesn't happen, right? We're in an amazing time in history. Amazing, right? For me, listen, I know what pre-internet is, right? 1997 was not, I was 26. There was no internet then, right? And if you had a property that was priced right, no one's going to know about it unless they read your classified ad in the paper or saw a sign, right? And then you may have the greatest deal ever, and no one will know. But today, via the internet, real estate has really become more of a commodity, and everything has a price, everything, right? And that's another thing people don't think about. They think, well, if this is really bad, or if it's in a bad neighborhood, or fill in the blank, no one's going to want it. There's always somebody who wants it if the price is right. I mean, certainly, in our area. I mean, I once had a deal in Cincinnati where the guy wanted to sell to me for $3,000, and it wasn't worth $3,000. But rare.
In the hood? Was it in the hood?
It was in an area where the after trade value was 40 grand, and it needed like 40 grand in repair.
So I had that happen on a PPC lead in Illinois, and I said, Brett, for now on, shoot all these leads in the head. Just snipe them out. They're not worth it. Right.
Yeah. But in New York City suburbs, that's never happened.
That doesn't happen. No.
I can sell. There's places where I can sell land, for $150,000. Places I can sell land for $500,000. So everything has a value. If you think of real estate as a commodity, you'll understand it now. Again, the purpose of this video, this podcast, is to help you have a better understanding of where you should offer. But the fear that a lot of people have when they start is that, well, even if I buy it right, maybe nobody wants it. And the answer is, if you buy it right, somebody will always want it. Always.
I'll buy it. You'll buy it. If so, wholesale, listen, if I could stop marketing yet tomorrow and never have to send another postcard or run another Google campaign again, and I can have deals come to me on a silver platter and hit the numbers I want to hit, listen, I would be the first person to say, hallelujah. Thank you. See you later, sellers. Never again. But that doesn't happen. I can't control that. If a wholesaler brought me deals, and I would just be like the happiest person ever. Every day I check my email, I make an offer, the wholesaler sells it to me, he gets his 30 grand, I make my 60 grand, we do 4 of those a month. Wouldn't that be the greatest thing ever? We'd be retired. I mean, we'd basically be in Jamaica half the time, just getting, but that's just not reality, right? Like, listen, you can buy deals from wholesalers for sure, but you have to, I would definitely say too, like you said, like there is always going to be a buyer for a deal. It has to be a deal. Like if wholesalers send me stuff all the time, and I just think that their numbers don't make sense. I'm like, listen, you're trying to sell me a property. By the way, you probably don't even have it under contract because you're being weird about how you're communicating with me. That's the first thing I say to them. They're like, ooh, this guy Greg's kind of a dick. And I'm like, this is the number I need to be at. And this is why. And I'm not lowballing you. I hope you get this thing for 100 grand below it. But like your number, you're trying to sell me a property for basically the market value. I can go on the end. This is my thing I say to them, and this is where they get it. I say, at your price that you're telling me you want to sell it to me for, I can go on the MLS and buy something cheaper. And then I don't usually say this because they'd really probably throw a pitchfork at me. They'd find me. I say, the truth is, this is what goes in my brain. You're too busy trying to build your buyer's list, mentally masturbating on foreclosure properties, that you're afraid to go out and actually get rejected by the real sellers who will eventually sell you a real deal that you can sell to me and make some real money. If people just took what I just said and process that, that is usually the truth. Can you not agree with that? It's like human nature.
Absolutely.
People don't want to get rejected.
I'm looking at people I have to call back. 2 guys are saying, would you like to buy a property? Like, I know these guys are brand new. So when I call them up, I go, listen.
I'm the same way. I'm kind of a dick.
I'm going to give you 5 minutes of my time. Yeah. You're not going to like one word I'm going to say. So number one, don't build your buyer's list until you have a deal. I go, all you're doing, as Greg Helbig says, is mental masturbation. It feels good, but it's not what you really
should be doing something else.
Right. So, and I tell them, and I explain why. I go, reverse wholesaling sounds good. It doesn't really work in New York. And the truth is, you're not going to know if they're a real buyer if you're not giving them a real deal and seeing how they react. So first get the deals. And I said, and I know that, and I go, that's the hard part. I go, it's real easy to call people, look at Google people.
They click my ad. And this one guy, I said, if you fucking click my ad again, I'm going to really get pissed. Stop. It's the same guy twice. I said, if you fucking call my ad again, I am going, because he's clicking on the website. And I'm like spending real money now. I'm spending like 150, 200 bucks a day. I'm like, dude, fuck off. You know, I went nuts on this guy. I went nuts on. I'm like, you fucking, oh, don't even get me started with that. Don't even get me started, dude. I went bananas the other day. Continue.
Right. So I don't go bananas on them. Yeah. I don't really check if they click. I'm like,
this is through text though. It was through text. So it wasn't as, anyway.
Like the hard part is talking to sellers.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the easy part, talking to buyers. Calling people up who you don't even know if they're the buyers, and you say, hey, if I can make you money, should I call you back? And 99, sure, why not? You don't even know if they're ever going to buy a property. I said, but the hard part is talking to sellers. I said, so spend your time talking to sellers.
100%. That's where you're going to actually be able to make real money, right? And I listen, there's people that we know, and I don't know this business model that well, but I do know that there are people not in New York. So if you're listening and you're in New York, this does not apply. Don't even try it. That are in Phoenix, Dallas, Vegas, Florida, like, the typical areas, Tampa Bay, and their whole business is basically dispositions. Like their whole pitch is like, don't market to sellers, just find buyers. And I bet you that works a lot better in those areas. But if you're listening to this podcast and you are in Long Island or the Hudson Valley or anywhere in New York, that does not work. Okay. And we're not trying to we're just telling you guys the truth. The guys and girls listening, this is the truth. That does not work. Spend your time on sellers. If you want to get really good, and then we'll start to wrap the show up here. So if you want to get really good at analyzing properties to make good wholesale offers, which is the name of the show or the title today, you need to look at a lot of properties. Here's something that you can do for free that will cost you no money. It'll take you some time, but that will be a good investment of time because you'll build a skill. Go on Redfin and go to one zip code that's hot, like in my area, 12553. Take all of the properties that are like active for sale or whatever you want to do, and then basically go in there and just have the address. Don't look at the sales price, obviously, or don't look at what it's sold for. Just try to get the address, download it, and then do your best guess to see what that ended up selling for. And then obviously it's like, you know what I mean? It's almost like a math problem where you practice math and then you look uncover and you see what it's sold for. That's better than
That's the hard part. I tell people in my area, I go, why don't you go to the auctions? Right?
Ooh, okay.
Every day now. And go there and look at the stuff that actually goes on auction. Write down what the people bought them at, and then follow them and see what they sold them at and see what they do with it. You can do it. It takes time. And the problem is it's follow, because property may not trade again for 9 months, right? So that's the problem. And you got to follow up with it. Right? So when you put an alert in or something like that, I tell people to do that, but it takes time. I said also go to every open house in your area where you live. Go to every single open house. Write down what they're asking. Pay attention to what it sells for, and you'll get an idea of what's going on.
100%. 100%. If you just, and you got it, in order to get good at deal making, you got to look at a lot of deals, right? You got to, and you're going to make mistakes.
Absolutely. When I started, I only did one city. It was really easy. I did Elmont. That was the only thing I did. I used to go to open houses every single weekend. I was like, hey, why is this? Why are they asking this? Does it make sense? What did it sell for? I knew Elmont, backwards and forwards when I started. I was like, I thought I could build my own business at Elmont. I was stabbed and staying. But eventually I added more cities. But the point is, that's how you learn. You learn by putting in the time.
Question about Elmont. Is there, if you really this is a side note, but if you really wanted to just be a laser in Elmont, is there enough population, or is that it's not straight up not big enough? No.
First of all, it's not big enough. It's I don't know what it is, 80 seconds.
Oh, then you're done. You can't do that.
Yeah, people, it's too small. But also, we kid ourselves, right? We think if I'm just going to focus on this area, I'm going to get all the deals. You're not going to get all the deals. It's just not going to happen, right? You're going to be millions of deals in that area that go to other people who contacted sellers that you didn't, or tried maybe sellers you did, and they resonated with that. So I tell people at start, you need at least a population like 300,000 to start. And figure that's an area, picking up zip codes that makes that, and then something to start so you can get a list. But for me, I just dreamed that I would be the king of Elmont. And after realizing that there were other bigger kings of Elmont, I needed to expand. And I spent just the second thing, I spent in Valley Street, and that was it. And then slowly but surely added like another 10 cities. But for me, that made going to the auctions much easier, because the list that came out for the auctions and used to be held weekly for 100 years was massive. And for me, it was just I'm not going to drive around the whole, I don't have the time to drive around the whole Long Island. for when 90% of the houses we're not even going to be up at auction. So I sort of focused in like really Southwest Nassau, and I could just drive around that area. It helped me. But when you want to, build up a business, you can't. You got to have a decent enough population.
You have to, yeah. And fortunately, in our area, you don't need to go that far because if you take Nassau, Suffolk, and then you take Orange, Rockland, Dutchess, Ulster, Westchester, Bronx. I like New York. We're starting to get stuff in New York, like in the Bronx.
10 million people, right? Just Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk is like 5.5 million people. It's a lot of people.
Yeah, and then you add Kings County, which is Brooklyn, and it's
another 3 million people. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's just the whole geographic Long Island. It's like this little thing, whatever. This looks like this. Yeah, that is crazy. Have you ever done business in Staten Island?
Yeah.
Is it a good market or no? Is it expensive? Compare it to Nassau or Westchester, somewhere like I know.
It's very small. I mean, population of Staten Island is very small. There's super high-end areas there. There's mansions that go for many millions of dollars, and it's a growing. Like all parts of the New York City area, the lower priced areas have done better over the last 10 years than anything else, right?
Yeah.
Percentage-wise. So parts of Staten Island have gone up, but it's hard to get to. And
it's like in New Jersey. It's so inconvenient to get there. It's so shitty.
And it's limited because I spoke to guys who go like, I buy the 5 boroughs. I send them something down. They go, I don't buy it down. I go, then you buy the 4 boroughs, not the 5 boroughs. Like people like, well, I don't
buy in Manhattan. I know a single person who's done a deal in Manhattan. Like besides like fucking Trump.
Almost everything's a condo or a co-op or a $30 million townhouse. It's not.
It's not.
I know a guy who bought a few. He bought a few co-ops during the pandemic when when it got slaughtered, and I think he's going to do very well with it. But co-op to me is a huge pain in the ass because dealing with a co-op board is not easy, and he may find a buyer for it, and the co-op board may not approve it. It's not so simple.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever gotten a lead in Manhattan. We've gotten them in Brooklyn, Queens, but like all that. He's like that's Westchester and the Bronx. It's like the same shit.
I get leads in Manhattan all the time. Most of the time they're not. It's not something where the guy's really going to take a big discount.
Interesting. I might test out Staten Island just because like it's like if I pull a list of like what I mean, add it to one of our mailing. I mean, I feel like it's like that's an area where like what is it? It's Richmond County.
RICHMOND.
New York City, and then we'll understand. But if you think about how weird that is, so New York City is one city, right? Biggest city in America. In that one city, there's 5 counties. How fucking crazy is that?
Right.
Manhattan County, Kings, Queens, Richmond, Bronx.
Bronx.
That is so weird because you think that one city, like, because if you're in White Plains, you're in Westchester. If you're in what's a city in Long Island? Like, what's a city? It's not a town, like a city.
Elmont's in Nassau County.
Okay, so yeah.
It's in the town of Hempstead. It's all nuts. So by us.
Quick thing, one more, I promise. So I got this property with violations in Rockland, and actually, fuck that. Here's a better one. Mamaroneck. We were talking about that property the other day. This is fucking mind blowing. I call to find out this is seems like a pretty good deal on the surface. I'm actually going to see it. But I'm like, the guy doesn't know what the taxes are. And I'm thinking, how doesn't he know what the taxes are? This is like a multi. He's like 81. I think he thinks he's in Candyland. So I'm just going to see him in person and I'll see if that's the case. So I find out.
You find that the taxes are right.
Yeah. So I made a phone call. So this is hilarious. So I make a phone call. This is 2 days ago. And I have to call the town of Rye because it's in the town of Rye, but then it's in the village of Mamaroneck. And it's in all these. So I find out just the property taxes on this 4-family, $20,000. I was like, that's to me, that's crazy. That's insane. I have a
6-family, my taxes are over $40,000 a year in Ellen.
That's $40,000 for that. That doesn't even make any sense. That's just insane to me.
Insane.
It's insane. Yeah. Anyway, well,
there are people living in me where their tax on their house is like $70,000.
Well, I see that more because it's like that's more of like, the property is huge and whatever, but like Frank Sanchez's taxes are, I'm not going to say it on the show, but they're a lot. His old taxes were a lot. I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but like, yeah, I mean, he lives in an area where like New Rochelle, it's like, yeah, you got you know, a normal property tax. I'm not going to say his tax, but if you live in a nice house in New Rochelle, expect to pay $30,000 a year in taxes minimum.
You know, people, you tell that to somebody in North Carolina, I think you're out of your mind, right? They pay $3,000 taxes a year.
That's high in North Carolina. There's a Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. I was talking to this guy out here at a mastermind a couple weeks ago, and he said that some property taxes are $800 a year. I'm like, what happens if there's a fire? Is a fire truck like is it a toy fire truck? Do they say, like, what do you even get for that? Like, how do you employ people? Like in our area, like, yeah, the schools are good. And it's like, yeah, there's good infrastructure, like, you know, but like if your property taxes are $800 a year, you're probably going to get like a toy fire truck to drive to the house with like a garden hose.
Probably a lot less corruption and waste.
Yeah, right. They got to make use of it. Well, Mike, listen, I'll let you run, man. This was a good show. I guarantee you a lot of people got value from it. And if you did get value, review the show, put it out on social media. That's how we keep growing this thing. Our downloads have been going up. So thank you for that, listeners. And we will talk to everyone on the next episode. Take care.